What's up, everybody? Gen X Dividend Investor here. Imagine cash flowing into your checking account without you having to work for it. Now imagine that so much money is pouring in that it covers all your annual expenses, and that moment is what I call dividend escape velocity. It's when your passive dividend income is so massive that all your bills are covered and all future dividend hikes that outpace inflation just continually increase your buying power even more. Think of it this way. Your expenses are like gravity holding you on Earth. But your dividends are the thrust of your financial rocket, trying to shoot you into the air. Once your dividend fuel and thrust is enough, you can shoot away from Earth. And the higher you go, the less gravity holds you back, and the faster you can zip out into the universe. Your dividends can keep compounding, giving you continually more financial freedom. You see, for most of us, financial gravity is a constant weight. It's the stress of living paycheck to paycheck, the fear of an unexpected bill, or the feeling of being trapped in a job you don't love just to make ends meet. Your job itself is often a golden anchor of sorts in that it pays you, but it also binds you in place. But dividend escape velocity can free you from that burden. It gives you piles of money flowing in, which can mean freedom from having to work and freedom to choose what to do with your time, and ultimately enables your retirement. So in this video, I'll explain how to calculate your personal dividend escape velocity number, how to track it, and how you can accelerate it, all of which is basically like a simple flight plan to financial freedom. I originally came up with the concept of dividend escape velocity decades ago, right after I first learned about dividends. And I actually should go even further back in time to when I was 7 and I first learned about passive income. My dad had taken me to Wells Fargo to open a checking account, and that's when I heard about interest income. I was blown away to learn that you could put money into your account, and then the bank would pay you interest to keep it there, and there was no limit on how much you could deposit and then earn. At the time, my dad didn't mention inflation, but still, it was a powerful moment that shaped my financial future. From that point forward, I became laser focused on saving and not wasting my money because I wanted to keep getting more interest. But I also have a sibling who's completely the opposite of me in that they don't care the least about getting passive income and instead they just love spending money. Anyway, after I graduated college and got my first real job, I started investing in stocks, and that's when I learned about dividends and how they were like interest on steroids. The older I got, the more I appreciated good passive dividend income that grew on its own. I truly saw how my money was working for me rather than me for it. And that whole idea of your investments flowing cash into your accounts without working for it was something that really motivated me. I quickly realized that if my passive income grew large enough, then I could retire from 9-to-5 jobs and live only on investment dividend income, and that led me to calculating my dividend escape velocity. And the first step in the calculation is estimating what your annual expenses are, either now or in the future. This number is the weight of your financial rocket, and it's the amount that the force of your dividends needs to overcome to escape the gravity of your expenses and ultimately give you freedom. Some people like to track their expenses in an app, others like me use spreadsheets, and others don't even think about it. So us dividend investors want to get an annual dividend income more than our annual expenses, so we not only cover our bills, but also have extra left over so we can invest more or whatever, as well as so we have some room in case we get dividend cuts. But that goal income might seem impossible, so like anything, you start with the first step. Start investing in quality dividend income, and then over time as you invest and reinvest more, you will keep growing towards your ultimate goal. Quality dividend income often comes from companies with established records of solid financial performance that you believe can continue to deliver into the future. They often have at least 10 years of consistently increasing dividend payments, along with manageable debt, rising revenue, income, and healthy cash flow. But more important than their history is your belief that they can continue delivering into the future. This includes having a sustainable payout ratio, a strong and durable business model, and management that makes disciplined, shareholder-friendly decisions. Companies operating in stable industries with enduring demand are generally better positioned to protect and grow dividends even in uncertain times. And even if you only make $100 of passive dividend income a year, it can still be helpful, so don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. Like even if you have $30K of annual expenses, making your needed dividend escape velocity $30K, you gotta realize that everyone starts somewhere, and your $100 is just a step towards your $30K target. Okay, and with step 1 behind us, now we move to step 2, where we guesstimate how big of a portfolio you'll need in order to generate that dividend escape velocity income. And to do that, we can start thinking about what your portfolio's average weighted yield will be, aka the blended rate of return your dividends generate relative to the total size of your investments. The yield is simply the sum of all the dividends you expect to receive divided by your total value of your portfolio. Generally speaking, lower yielding portfolios are less than 3%, medium would be 3 to 5%, and high yielding is above those. Oftentimes, the higher the yield, the higher the risk, though that's not always the case. These days, I think a 4 to 5% current yield is often a healthy range for retirees like myself, since it usually means you've not gone all in on very high yield stuff, but you're still getting more income than something like the SP 500, which only yields a bit over 1%. A 4 to 5% yield usually tells me your tickers might have some decent capital appreciation in them, while also providing a reasonable amount of income. Another way to think of all that is that a low-yielding portfolio is like a lean young tree that is still growing, a medium-yielding portfolio is like a healthy orchard producing reliable fruit, and a high-yielding portfolio is like older trees loaded with fruit that sometimes have branches snap under the weight. Okay, so now you have your annual expenses, which is the amount of dividend income you want to hit, and you divide that by your estimate of your portfolio's desired yield to get your portfolio size. For example, if you estimate that your portfolio will average about a 3.5% current yield and you want $40,000 in annual dividend income, then 40K divided by 0.035 equals 1.14 million. Thus, you need slightly over $1 million portfolio at a 3.5% yield to hit your dividend escape velocity, aka your annual expenses. Also note that 1.14 mil times 3.5% equals about 40K, i.e. your portfolio size times your current yield equals your annual dividend income you'd get from that portfolio. My general observation is that the higher the starting yield, the lower the dividend CAGR, and the lower the starting yield, the higher the dividend CAGR, though that's not a hard and fast rule. As an example, we see that Microsoft has a very low starting yield, but its dividend CAGR has averaged a great 10% a year, and if you add its yield plus its dividend CAGR, we get around 11%. There's actually something called the Chowder Rule, developed by a Seeking Alpha author, that combines a stock's dividend yield and its dividend growth rate to try to identify promising dividend growth stocks. The rule basically says that the total should be above 11% to help investors find a balance between a high current yield and a strong dividend growth potential. The thinking behind the rule is that a company with a high dividend growth rate can compensate for a low current yield over time, and a company with a high current yield may still be a good investment even with a lower growth rate. One of the highest Chowder scores in my portfolio comes from my Goldman Sachs holding, which currently has a yield of 2.03% and a monstrous 5-year compound annual dividend growth rate of about 21%, which is a 23% total score. Of course, I'm confident it's only a matter of time before Goldman's dividend hike comes down to earth, but it's been an awesome ride so far. Now, you might be thinking that if Goldman's Chowder score is so good, then maybe now's a good time to invest in it, but I'd say you need to dive into it a lot more before ever pressing that buy button. Like, you need to understand its financial trends, its various risks, its competitors, and heck, is it even a reasonable or cheap time to buy? My favorite tool to gain some insights into its valuation is FastGraphs, which I'm an affiliate of. It visually shows me that Goldman looks to be expensive right now, as its black stock price line is above its blue line, which represents the PE multiple the market has historically put it at, as well as is above its orange line, which is its estimated fair value line. So I'd personally not invest in it right now, but I prefer to buy when things are cheap or reasonably priced. Anyway, my portfolio's average weighted yield is 4.3% and my dividend CAGR is 5.3%, and remember that I'm retired. But before I was retired, my CAGR was higher and my starting yield was lower. And of course, it would be easy for me to have a starting portfolio yield of 10% or even more, but then I'd be moving into tickers that have their own risks that wouldn't hit the various goals and risk tolerances and timelines that I have for myself. I managed to retire about 5 years ago, which was when my dividend income was above my family's expenses, and my income has continued to trend up since then as the years have gone by, averaging a dividend growth rate that's been higher than inflation's average, which means my buying power has continually increased. Now, sometimes when people see my portfolio, they think that it's impossible for them to ever achieve it, but it really depends on how long you invest and the sort of returns you get, and most people don't realize the power of time and compounding. For example, if you start from scratch and invest about $100 a week for 35 years and get a 10% return, which is about what the market has done historically, then you'd end at a portfolio of $1.5 million. And the crazy part is that over those 35 years, you'd only have invested $168,000, but time and compounding make it increase another $1.35 million up to the $1.5 million mark. That's the power of compounding in time, and why I think that many people can invest their ways to a solid financial future, even if their investments aren't huge. It's about time and consistency in decent assets, more than massive investments. Plus, if you work at a place with a 401k and you get matching contributions, then that can help a ton as well. If you get a bonus at work, then try to invest it. If you sell your house for a profit, then set aside some amount for your next down payment and invest the rest. That sort of focus on investing over spending will really push your portfolio to increase. So a key takeaway is to live within a budget and then invest as much as you can afford to lose into solid assets. Your beginning investments are what enable the initial thrust of your rocket. And your dividend growth rate, combined with more investments, speaks to how much power your dividend engine grows over time. The fact is that good portfolios tend to keep getting stronger, kind of like how SpaceX's engines keep getting better. Like the first generation SpaceX Raptor engine weighed 2,000 kilograms and put out 185 tons of thrust. The second gen was 1,600 kilos and then did 230 tons of thrust. The Raptor 3 was 1,400 kilos and 269 tons of thrust, and finally the Raptor X is only 1,200 kilograms with 320 tons of thrust. If you have less thrust than the weight of the rocket, then you won't move. If you have equal thrust to that of the rocket's weight, then it can hover in place. And if thrust is greater than total weight, the rocket accelerates upward. The greater the thrust to weight ratio, the faster it accelerates. In the dividend world, if your dividend income, aka the thrust, is greater than your total expenses, aka the total rocket weight, then your rocket accelerates forward as you break free from gravity. And the faster your thrust increases, the more power your rocket ship has to push forward. Now don't forget that your paycheck is usually your biggest source of income, so it's your biggest source of initial investment potential. But as the decades go on, and your portfolio probably grows, then eventually it may grow on its own faster than anything you're adding. That doesn't mean you should stop investing in it, but it's a neat phenomenon to be aware of. Your dividend snowball truly grows when you turn on your dividend reinvestment plan, aka the DRIP, and then your dividends buy more shares, which in turn generates more dividends, creating a compounding feedback loop. But just like SpaceX's engines were designed carefully, you also need to design your portfolio carefully. Of course, the younger you are, the more risks you can take and the more growth you can push for. The older you get, the more conservative you tend to get, and you may aim for more yield and less growth, and ultimately more sustainability. Anyway, it's also important to understand that dividend cuts and suspensions can happen, so it's often useful to hold a diverse basket of quality tickers across a variety of industries and sectors and asset types, with reasonable weightings, so if one ticker cuts, it won't negatively impact you too much. You may also want to diversify your fuel sources as part of your financial plan to accelerate your financial freedom. Basically, I'm talking about investing in different types of dividend investments. For example, dividend aristocrats and kings, i.e. the companies that have consistently increased their dividends for decades. You might also want to add some higher octane fuel and REITs, which often have higher yields, but they can come with their own risks that aren't for everybody. Or maybe you want a more pre-built fuel tank, so you opt for dividend ETFs. They can be helpful for newer and hands-off investors because they provide some diversification along with perhaps a professionally managed portfolio of dividend tickers, saving you some work and maybe some of the risk that comes with picking individual companies. Anyway, all that can help you add some serious thrust to your rocket, but you still need to remember that every flight has its moments of turbulence. The reality is that sometimes markets can crash, so you want to keep that in mind as well. Good dividend income can often hold up a lot better than stock prices, so while your portfolio will crash, your robust dividend tickers might keep going up. Another important thing to remember is that a common pitfall many people have is lifestyle inflation, which is like adding weight to your rocket. The more you increase your spending as your income goes up, the more expenses you have, meaning you need more thrust or dividend escape velocity to be free. So staying disciplined with your budget is a key component of your flight plan. And a practice I recommend you do, which is both motivating and helpful, is to start documenting your progress. Perhaps create a simple spreadsheet or use a tracking tool to monitor your portfolio and dividend income and such, so you can see how everything grows over time. Don't fret when the markets crash, and don't fixate on short-term changes, and instead play the game in years and decades. Slowly you should see progress towards the ultimate goal of hitting that wonderful dividend escape velocity when your dividends cover all your expenses and more. Along the way, I encourage you to celebrate any goals you achieve, though don't tunnel vision on the goal at the expense of your long-term plan. Like a good goal might be hitting 1% or 5% or whatever percent of your annual expenses and dividend income. But don't chase low-quality, high-yield tickers to hit your goal faster because you could be shooting yourself in the foot. Regardless, every goal and milestone you achieve has psychological benefits that are real and motivating. And if your engine explodes and your stocks go up in flames and your investments go belly up, then you just can't quit and you gotta rebuild and try to move forward again. Another thing to be aware of are both taxes and inflation. If you're investing in a retirement account, then you usually don't need to worry about paying any tax on your divvies. But if you're holding stocks in a taxable account, then those divvies are probably taxable income that you may owe taxes on based on a variety of factors. And inflation is always eating away at things, so having a dividend growth rate that averages higher than inflation is often a good bet. So if you can start investing, and then keep investing, and then deal with setbacks, then you'll eventually probably hit your dividend escape velocity, or at least make some progress towards it, and all of that pushes you towards your financial dreams. And with that, I'd like to ask the community a favor and comment with what your estimated dividend escape velocity number is. That could be what it is today, or what you estimate it will be when you want to retire. And thanks for sharing that, as I love seeing information like that from you guys. Now I want to move on and respond to a question I recently got from someone who asked why I spend time making videos when I could just be playing video games or vegging out on Netflix or whatever else. And the answer is I already do all that, and I get a ton of happiness making videos because I know that I'm influencing people to build a better financial future for themselves. I really appreciate the fact that I started investing and never quit, as it's gotten me to a point where my investments enabled my early retirement, and I'm confident my portfolio will provide true generational wealth for my kids and beyond. So bottom line, I want everyone to experience the power of investing over a long period of time. Life is hard, so taking baby steps in the right direction will eventually take you farther than many people realize. That's the main reason why I continue to do what I do, even though I don't need to. Beyond that, I do it because it keeps my mind growing and learning in retirement, and it gives me a chance to socialize more with people around the globe on a topic I love, and it's showing my kids how to grow an online business from scratch, which is something I'm encouraging them to do as well. So I've got a bunch of reasons why I do my social media stuff. Yet another reason can be inferred from the story I'm going to show you. Listen to this 30-second clip.
You ever heard me tell the story of the three guys making bricks? 125 years ago in Spain, Barcelona, there's these three guys sitting in the dirt and they're making bricks. And they asked the first guy, what are you doing? He said, I'm making bricks. They asked the second guy, what are you doing? He said, I'm building a wall and I get to make the bricks to build a wall. They asked the third guy, what are you doing? He said, we're building a cathedral to worship God. It's the Sagrada Familia and I get to make the bricks to build the left wall of the cathedral. I get chills just telling that story because the guy who's building the Sagrada Familia is so much more inspired than the guy who's making bricks. And all three of them are just making bricks.
So trying to influence others to invest is a passion of mine, something I believe in strongly, and it's what I feel is one of the best ways to grow long-term wealth along with true passive income. But there are lots of other ways to invest, like in physical real estate, though I've never been a fan of that approach. I actually have a decent amount of experience helping out a relative who has lots of real estate investments, both residential and commercial, and he constantly complained about the stresses and tenant issues and regulations and blah blah blah. He had to deal with environmental issues of leakage that occurred in his properties. He had to deal with nasty tenants and a ton of other things over the years, not to mention times when he had to sell but couldn't find buyers. And in fact, as I was working on this section of the video, an article came across my newsfeed that highlighted why physical real estate investing isn't something I like to do too much. It was about a lady who invested in a couple of real estate properties and was initially making $20,000 a month. But then things turned south, and between her mortgages and expenses, she went from being cash flow positive to losing $1,700 a month. She said it was too much management and too many headaches. She switched to long-term tenants hoping for stability, but that didn't help either. She said, and I quote, "It still feels like a weight on my chest. I dread getting texts from tenants. Like even a simple maintenance request just ruins my day." She wanted to build wealth, but underestimated how much stress it would bring her. Now she's trying to figure out whether to hold for the future rent increases and property appreciation, or restructure her loans, or cut her losses and sell. So her properties aren't just bleeding money, they're anchoring her to a life she no longer wants. That all being said, I should also say that good real estate investing has great tax implications and can have great returns, but there's a trade-off of more stress, even if you use property managers, at least to me. And sure, tons of people do real estate investing and have minimal issues and very low stress, so I'm just trying to share my perspective on things, not dissuade you from trying it. I actually think it's smart to give real estate investing a go and see if it's your cup of tea or not. I just know I like to avoid it, other than my house. Like literally today my AC went out, so now I gotta deal with getting estimates and fixing it and blah blah blah. And that's why I like my real estate ticker so much, because I just get paid without having to do all the work and without all the stress, and with the click of the button I can sell and cash out. And sure, right now my O ticker is not appreciating as it normally does, but that's part of the beauty of quality dividend stocks and that they pay me to wait. Plus I don't need or plan to sell it, so holding and collecting cash payments is my strategy for my entire portfolio. So this momentary lag in O's total return performance doesn't impact me at all. Okay, now I want to close this episode off with a powerful 13-second clip from a Joe Rogan podcast that contains some advice for parents. Take a listen.
Anytime you're getting frustrated with them, just close your eyes. And imagine you are 80 years old and you have a time machine that is bringing you right back to this moment. And this is the only moment you will get with them again when they're young.
Wow, that's great.
It's awesome. I mean, it's incredible advice.
That's very good advice. Very good advice.
Wise words that I hope you parents reflect on, even if it's not about dividend investing. And now I'd like to wind things down and show my gratitude to subscribers who left me kind comments, so I'm going to shout out 10 who've done just that. So thank yous go out to Hook the Monster, Play 002 300, Don Romandel 20, Royals Mindset, Apparel 869, Just Orion 1098, J Plays 568, ML Clay, then multiple from Jan Marsh, and multiple from 1977 Zep. Thanks folks, I really appreciate it. And with that, I ask you to please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't yet, and click that bell notification, as all of that really helps my channel. Now I'd like to ask everyone to check out my Seeking Alpha affiliate link, which often has a discount when new users sign up. I'd also like to pitch my FastGraphs affiliate link along with my coupon code in the description of this video, as using both will allow new users to get 25% off their first payment even if they sign up for a full year. Also check out my Patreon page and/or consider joining my channel membership, as both have some cool perks you might like. Finally, I'll close this off by recommending that everyone join my free Dividend Discord chat server, which has over 11,000 Dividend investors on it from 86 countries around the world. Thanks for watching, stay positive, and I'll talk to you again real soon. Remember, I'm not a financial advisor, and my videos are for entertainment and inspirational purposes only. Investing of any kind involves risk. I'm only sharing my opinions with no guarantee of gains or losses on investments.